From script to screen, every film is brought to life by visionary creatives and executives, all sharing one mission: to captivate the audience. Hosted by award-winning movie strategist Kevin Goetz, our podcast, Don't Kill the Messenger, offers a filmmaking masterclass through intimate conversations with Hollywood's most influential voices. And now, your host, Kevin Goetz.
Hollywood is changing, listeners. For over a century, the film business has been driven by a relatively small group of decision-makers, studios, financiers, and gatekeepers determining what gets made and what reaches audiences. But now the model is shifting. My guests today are redefining and have redefined the audience's role in Hollywood. Jeff Annison and Paul Scanlan come from the world of tech and digital media, where building communities and scaling platforms is second nature. And they're now applying that thinking to the film business. They're the Emmy-winning pioneers and co-founders of Legion M, a company at the forefront of a growing movement where fans can invest in, support, and help bring movies and TV series to life. They've restructured the relationship between the audience and Hollywood, giving fans a real sense of ownership. And that's where I come in because I am completely enamored with this model. Jeff and Paul, welcome to my show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. This is amazing.
I'd like to start with Paul and ask you, what got you interested in the first place in this crazy business that we work in?
It's a good question. I mean, my interest in film started when I was young. I mean, I've always been fascinated by film.
Where are you from?
I'm from outside Chicago. I was born in Boston, but grew up outside of Chicago, pretty far away from Hollywood. But I studied film in college at University of Wisconsin-Madison, still a pretty far distance from Hollywood, but had an absolutely amazing experience there, actually researching and learning about film, but also producing film. This was back when we were editing physical film. Then Jeff and I started a company together a little over 20 years ago.
So you learned editing on like a moviola?
Yeah, Steinbeck, actually.
Even before Avid?
Avid existed, but the professor still wanted us to understand the act of physically cutting film.
Did you ever imagine when you were on those editing machines that we would be evolved to this place 20-something years later?
To be honest, no. I maybe dared to dream about it every once in a while. And I do have some friends that I studied with at that time that all kind of came out here right after college and have had success. But for me, it was more indulging my passion and learning something that I thought would be creative and exciting to learn and to be excited about learning it. But then I assumed that I would stay in Chicago and work in advertising or marketing. I mean, that was always my passion.
It was? So
I was already interning at advertising agencies. And that was the first part of my career, was in marketing and advertising.
Did you have an early influence in film, whether it was a film or a person?
Well, I had a really poignant experience with the film. Actually, two. One was seeing Jaws for the first time in a theater. I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and my parents made the ill-fated decision to take the whole family, including me, who was probably
nice day for a
4 or 5 years old.
Outing.
We were in Cape Cod on vacation, summer vacation. They took the whole family to go see Jaws because it was the big summer blockbuster that everyone was taking their families to go see. And my brother, he had nightmares every night, wouldn't sleep. No one went near the ocean.
How old were you?
It totally ruined our vacation. 5 years old.
It's unbelievable how the movie holds up.
Yes.
And how this one particular story, I believe it's in my first book, Audience.Ology, I tell of how Stephen changed a particular moment with the head coming into frame to scare the audience.
Yeah.
And they had to reshoot that. And I waited for that moment. And as soon as that moment came on and the
Is that
audience,
the opening of the film?
No.
Oh.
It's not the opening.
It's when he's diving in the
Correct.
boat and
Correct.
comes through the window.
Yeah,
and they filmed it in a pool. I know that from your book.
Yeah.
Exactly. In Verna Fields, the editor's pool in Van Nuys, and they put some milk in the water to make it murky, and they shot it, but the audience jumped. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
How about you, Jeff?
I actually came to this very circuitously in that I was a mechanical engineer in college at UCLA. And I ended up taking a number of screenwriting classes just on a lark because I've always enjoyed writing. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. And I was about 3 years into my mechanical engineering degree. And I distinctly remember having a conversation with my parents where I'm like, hey, I'm thinking of changing my career, changing my major.
That always goes over well.
From mechanical engineering to screenwriting. And they gave me latitude to do whatever I wanted. And I think, fortunately, I had the good luck, probably more than the good sense, to recognize that it's always easier to be a mechanical engineer by day and write by night than vice versa.
Did you have a defining moment as well, like a Jaws moment?
For me, it would have been going to see Empire Strikes Back. I was in elementary school at the time, and she took me out of school so that we could go see the movie on like a Monday or Tuesday.
Because you were hounding her?
Like that. I think I was too young to be hounding her, but I think it was just something that she wanted to share with me. And so it's a really treasured memory that I have.
That's a great memory. And you had one other one, you said.
Oh, I have many, but one other one that just kind of came to me as Jeff was talking is my family, we have 7 people in our family. We would religiously watch the Godfather movies together as a family. That was something that my dad really wanted.
Did you have nightmares over those?
No, because I was older when he introduced that to me. So my brother had the nightmares related to Jaws. My nightmares were related to Halloween, which my parents had nothing to do with. But the first time I watched it, the movie Halloween.
Oh, Michael Myers. Yeah. Oh, my God.
No,
that
movie
was terrifying.
Yeah, that terrified me. Yeah.
It's still, I worked on the last one, and it still terrified me. In fact, I think it terrified me more because of all of that pent up, what was going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
and
my God, he's so formidable.
Yeah.
And they open it with, he's in this prison yard, chained.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, my God, what are we in store for? Yeah.
But these experiences, I mean, they're so emotional, and it's just incredible to me what a movie can draw out,
100%. Yeah. Now, how did you boys find each other?
We met in 1999 when Paul was working in marketing. I was working at a toy company designing toys. Hasbro.
We do our research here.
I'm impressed.
Of course, I would only be able to say Hasbro or Mattel, basically.
You had a 50-50 shot.
Exactly.
But a good friend of ours pulled us together, and he was starting a company. And
why?
It was he was a technical genius that had invented some new technology. It was this little micro display technology. Paul was the marketing guy that understood marketing and branding. And I was the engineer.
Ice hockey together, so I'd known him for a few years.
I knew you played ice hockey. You still play?
I still play, yeah.
Who loves is Jerry Bruckheimer. Listeners, this is a fascinating subject on so many levels because it's about 2 people who are entrepreneurs who came together to start a business, a new TV kind of platform, if you will, called MobiTV.
Yeah, that was what Philip brought us all together. We had a few ideas for companies. One was going to be high-tech toys for kids. The other was going to be like an acceleration proxy for mobile internet access to mobile phones.
So what was Mobi? Tell us what Mobi was.
Well, MobiTV ended up becoming the first company to put TV on phones. And so we got there by starting with this acceleration proxy. It's a little bit like if you watch Silicon Valley.
Literally pre-YouTube.
This is back in the day where the only place that you could watch television was on a television that was either connected to a satellite dish or a cable.
Did you have patents on this stuff?
We ended up having a whole bunch of patents, yeah.
Did you sell the company?
It ended up selling, we had many offers, including News Corp tried to buy us at one point.
But they bought MySpace instead.
Yeah, they had just bought MySpace, and then we were going to be the second acquisition. Peter Chernin, Mike Lang, they came in. And so we like to say that all of our rich friends sold their companies too early. So we held on. Our investors wanted to hold out. I mean, the company grew to almost $1 billion valuation at one point in time. And TiVo owns it, and now it's the new TiVo platform because we eventually built a whole cloud-based DVR and all the functionality. God. We were the market leader in mobile television.
Jeff, what made you see the white space?
It's funny because when we developed the very first prototype, it was live streaming television, but the streaming was 1 frame every 3 seconds and a continuous audio stream on a flip phone. But in 2003, It was the coolest thing that you could do on your cell phone. And one of the things that we learned was that as long as you had a good audio stream, you could live with watching one frame every 3 seconds for a lot of content. Like, it doesn't work for basketball, but if you're watching a newscast and the newscaster's head is only updating once every 3 seconds, that's fine. If you're watching Discovery Channel, which was a big one that we had, it really worked. And so we had one of those classic startup moments where it was on sale on Sprint on one flip phone. These were the very first phones that had any sort of apps on them. And we got our first sale and everybody's all excited. And we got our second sale. Then it starts going da 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 da.
We had a ticker that we could all watch that showed us how many new subscribers we were getting. We were charging $10 a month. And the next highest revenue product in those decks back then was like a $5 ringtone or a game. Nothing was recurring yet, not many things. So we were 2x the price in recurring.
Were you on Apple as well?
Eventually, yeah. When the iPhone came out, MobiTV for 1 year was the #1 revenue generating application on iPhone. So we did a MobiTV, which was kind of the classic version of mobile television. We had like a miniature cable lineup, a bunch of channels. We charged $10 a month. As Jeff mentioned, that slideshow TV lasted like 2 years.
Who was like really up your ass at that moment in those 2 years? Like you had to watch your back at every moment.
The cable companies.
Yet you get an Emmy award.
Yeah,
which is ironic. Yeah. When do you get the Emmy, by the way?
I want to say it was 2003.
So you had already evolved to sort of a normal stream.
Yeah.
By that time, it was more in line with what we would consider streaming today. Nowhere near the quality. But it's like, you asked what the white space was. It was recognizing that even though when we launched, the only thing the phones could support was one frame every 3 seconds, like that was a temporary technological limitation. All of us could see. So when we took it to Hollywood, we met with some really big people and we showed it to them.
So we had Discovery, TLC, A&E.
And they all bought into it?
At this time, the live channels were the crown jewels. That's where most of the viewing was. We hadn't started doing primetime episodes on demand. None of that existed yet. So this is 2001, 2002. I remember meeting, there was one of the Disney execs. The first time we met him, we were sharing it with them, and he was running ABC and had ABC News, and he's a friend of ours now. So when we first showed it to him, we're like, yeah, check this out. We had arranged a meeting and he was kind of grumpy. He's like, why am I meeting with you guys? What do you want? And we're like, oh, well, we're introducing this new service. And we show it to him and he's like, that's never going to go anywhere. No one's going to watch TV on their cell phone. He literally said to me, that is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. But 4 months later, we're about to launch. He calls me. He's like, what's going on? I haven't heard back from you guys. And we said, well, we didn't think you wanted to come in. And he said, well, did you get any channels? I'm assuming it's going nowhere.
We have everyone
right?
but you.
And I was like, oh, yeah, we've got 13 channels or whatever.
Did you have CBS and NBC?
We had CNBC,
Discovery,
TLC.
We programmed a channel using public domain Warner Brothers
we did
cartoons.
Our own cartoon channel. So we had all these channels lined up. Everyone was trading papers back and forth, but no one would sign. And one of the things that we realized is that no one wanted to be the only company.
Of course.
They wanted to make sure that there was safety in numbers and that there would be others. And so probably a few weeks away from launching, we went back to them and we said, look, I think we understand why you're all talking to us, but not signing. Because I think it was A&E, Alana Sofko asked me, she said, well, who else is in? Our team wants to know.
They all
want to
know that.
Yeah. And I said, well, here's who's lined up. And she said, well, who's signed? And I said, look, if that's what makes a difference, why don't we add a contingency that we won't launch your channel until we've signed with other channels that are on your level. And so we went back, we added that term, and we got everybody to sign. And then ABC comes calling, wondering, like, what's going on? I tell him, and he's like, holy shit, you can't launch without us. He's like, this is going to be huge. I'm like, weren't you the guy that said that this was the dumbest idea?
Of course he was. Yeah. And it was. And in fairness, no one wants to be the first.
No.
But who was? Give me a name, because it's going to be a good thing for them. Who saw your vision? And who was like, this is cutting edge?
Salil Dalvi was who we did the agreement with at NBC. It had to go. I mean, this was a big enough deal that they had to get it approved.
I can't believe what you guys did with this. And it's so germane to what's happening now. As you know, and you were so lovely to compliment me on both the books and the podcast, and I appreciate it so very much. what I've noticed in researching all the stuff that I do and continue to do because I have to keep on top of everything is these disruptions.
Yeah.
And the fact that we are living in such a disruptive environment and the cynicism, the fear that is pervasive right now is very real. And no one knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
There are some of us who see that as pure opportunity and others who see it as, what the F am I going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't even need to ask you which side of the aisle you're on.
No,
we're
100%. Like this has traditionally been one of the most difficult industries to try and break into.
You know what? I want to say every industry is difficult to break into, but you're probably right because it's such a fun industry. It's so creative, so it attracts a lot of people. You're right. But I do want to really pivot the second half of this conversation about the creator economy and that real shift into why Legion M and why now.
Yeah.
So you sell the company to whom again?
TiVo. TiVo owns it.
You sell to TiVo.
Yeah. We had left by the time that happened.
You did? You
had.
had.
We had already started Legion M well before that.
And I hope you did okay as the exit of that.
We did less well than if we had sold to
You made
News
that
Corp.
point with your, if you had sold.
Yeah.
To News Corp.
They would have turned it into Hulu. This was, their aspirations were Hulu. And so
they might have. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what do they have?
Well, that's what they've told us. Yeah.
Was it a more of a freemium model?
I mean, it was circa 2006 probably.
So it was still, they were paying for it, but would you ever think about going ad supported?
We had some ad supported channels.
You did.
Yeah.
So what excites me about you both is your embracing of the audience, and adding the audience is a huge component into what your next evolution was going to be.
Yeah.
So I really want to understand what happens after you leave the company and you start Legion M. Did it take a matter of days, months, years to get to the idea of that?
So I left MobiTV back in 2009, and I had a company that I was running with Paul.
Oh, another company in between.
Yes.
That we spun out of MobiTV.
What was it called?
Jeff ran.
It was called Underground Labs, and we had a product called the New York Rock Exchange. And the idea was, this was back in 2012, what if you could buy stock in a rock star? And we literally set out to say, like, okay, well, can you buy stock in a rock star? And found out that no, you couldn't because of securities laws.
What do you mean investing in a rock star? What does that even mean?
What if you could buy stock in a rock star? What if you could
buy into
hear
their royalty
But what are
stream?
you buying? Like, what are the success metrics?
Well, I mean, yeah. What if you finance their next record? Or what if you literally could buy a piece of their career? There's a number of companies that have done it with athletes at one point where literally these athletes were effectively going public.
But the rock stars in your company had to comply.
Well, we decided that that wasn't a viable model.
Got it.
So what we ended up with after looking at, can we simulate it? Like, what if it's just a big game and you simulate
That's
it?
where I was going with this.
Well, it turns out that's gambling. And at the time, that was also not legal. And again, things have changed since then with prediction markets now, but also fantasy sports. And so there's new ways to kind of do it. Where we eventually settled was the idea that you could buy a piece of a rock star. And what that meant was that you were literally buying a piece of the royalty on the song. So we worked with Rodney Atkins, we worked with the Zombies, we worked with Testament. And you literally, if you bought one of these shares, you owned a piece of the royalty, not in a financial way. Like, it wasn't like you were going to get a lot of money, but you could literally look somebody in the eye and say, I'm a part owner of the royalty, the same way that the Green Bay Packers issue shares in the team. And when you did that, you would get this beautiful certificate with a unique serial number on it that you could then use that serial number to identify yourself as a shareholder that got you access to maybe special recordings or an online shareholder call with the rockstar.
This was sort of like a practice run at something. And then as the rules were adopted. So in 2012, part of the reason why the New York Rock Exchange was such a strong initiative from us is that the bill to enable all these things was actually passed by Congress in 2012. So in 2015, I was getting ready to leave MobiTV. I moved over to London. I was running our international
You
business.
married yet at this point?
Yeah. Over in London with
So
my
you brought
family.
the kids, yeah.
Yeah. We had an amazing experience, and at that point, the company had filed to go public. We had a lot of opportunity in front of us still. But I was ready to leave. I was moving back from London.
What was your job there?
I was president of the company and
was there
running
someone, was there a CEO?
Yeah, we had a CEO. Yeah, we brought in a seasoned CEO, a guy named Charlie Nooney, to take the company public. He was a senior guy at Disney.
Did you want to go public?
We were ready to sell. We were growing. We're on our way to 100 million in annual revenues. We had offices around the world. It was ridiculous.
Okay, so in 2015, you leave.
I leave. Yep, I'm ready to leave. Charlie's got the company. I stayed on the board, but I'm excited to go build something again. And Jeff and I had been talking. And so based on the experience that we had had with New York Rock Exchange, we decided now the rules are actually coming. So
we launched the very first equity crowdfunding campaign in the United States on May 16th, 2016 at 9 a.m., the day the Reg CF of the Jobs Act went into effect.
That was Legion M.
That was Legion M.
We had announced Legion M like 2 months earlier and said we were doing this so that we could build up some kind of excitement for it. And then we were literally the very first company to use the new rules.
And so
we blew
how did you
out.
get the word out?
We had some partners. We teamed up with Seth Green and the team at Stupid Buddy Studios. They were one of our partners.
Robot
Tim
Chicken?
League. Yeah, Robot Chicken.
Yeah.
We had Tim League, the founder of Alamo Drafthouse. And we had a few
How
other...
much did you raise initially?
The first round, we were limited by law. We could only raise $1 million, and we raised $1 million.
Yeah.
Just based on the idea.
So people were calling you left, right, and side. Is that when I invested in full disclosure?
I think so. I think it was either that round or the next round. We can look it up. Thank you for that investment. Yeah, you helped make this happen.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
But was I part of that initial $1 million?
I don't know. We'd have to go back and check.
I think so.
And see.
You were very early. Yeah.
Because
and we did get a lot of press. Because
you got a lot of press.
It was the same thing. The first time we put TV on cell phones, we were shocked at how much press.
But listeners, I want to make sure you understand that I didn't invest because I thought they were brilliant. I invested because I was nervous and wanted to say, what are they doing with audiences? This is very intriguing. I like these guys. I like how they're thinking. I agree with how they're thinking. So I wanted to make sure that I was going to be let in on inside information.
Yeah, you want to see it from the inside, see what's going on.
And I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
When I wanted to just learn about verticals, I went out and made a vertical.
Yeah.
When I wanted to learn how to do a documentary, I just produced my first documentary. I like to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And I also usually don't necessarily need to go back.
Yeah.
But
we like to talk about what we're doing too. So we're pretty...
Well, you were pretty transparent, which I also appreciated.
Yeah.
Okay, when we come back, we are going to really unpack, and it took a while to get there, but we did it, Legion M and the beginning of crowdsourcing and the beginning of bringing the audience into having their own agency. We'll be back in a moment. Listeners, the Motion Picture and Television Fund is a nonprofit charitable organization that supports working and retired members of the entertainment community. This wonderfully run organization offers assistance for living and aging with dignity and purpose in the areas of health and social services, including temporary financial assistance, case management, and residential living, and has been a crucial lifeline to thousands during and beyond critical times that our industry continues to experience. To learn more, visit mptf.com. Please join me in helping others in our industry during times of need. There are so many ways to offer support and get involved. Thank you. We're back with Paul Scanlan and Jeff Annison. And guys, I want to talk about the formation of Legion M, how it came to be, how you were the first crowdsourcing successful company in entertainment, and what your goal was. What was your mission out of the gate?
We saw these laws changing with the Jobs Act. It was changing securities laws that had been on the books since the Great Depression.
Which allowed you to collect money from people.
Yeah, what the laws changed was non-accredited investors, which means roughly 97% of the population, for the first time, were allowed to invest in a company prior to an IPO. Before these laws, the only way, if you wanted to invest in us, our company, or our film, or whatever, you could only do it if you met certain wealth requirements that were set by the SEC, which was effectively the wealthiest few percent of the population.
Wow.
And so we saw this changing, like a fundamental shift on laws that had been on the books since the Great Depression.
And we all want a piece of it.
And we said this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to build a type of studio that has never been able to exist before.
I mean, to be honest, if you think about it, America, we pride ourselves on how entrepreneurial we are and how all these new ventures. And it was kind of shocking to us that we were lagging behind the rest of the world. And so this was a way for entrepreneurs and new companies to be started by uniting.
And still in all, it was only $1 million
communities.
was the limit.
Yeah.
That you could raise.
That was the start of it. It's now been raised to $5 million to do this. There are still rules around it. So the SEC, it's not a free-for-all. You still have to register and file with the SEC, let them know what you're doing. They do bad actor checks. There are limits in how much people can invest.
An individual can invest.
How much an individual
can invest. What is that number
now?
It depends. It's a percentage of your income.
Yeah.
And it's actually a complex formula, but generally it's high enough that most people can invest.
So you raise $1 million, which
Yep.
really is not anything.
Nothing.
No, it's not
to start a company.
Yeah.
We had 3,500 investors. So we had a legion of 3,500 people at the time.
Got it.
And we said, what can we do with this? And the first opportunity that came along was an opportunity to make a small P&A investment with this brand new distributor called Neon in the movie Colossal.
So tell me, how did it work with Neon?
So, well, we were friendly with Tim and Tom and Christian Parks, who's the CMO, who's now with Clockwork, Warner Brothers. So we were all like really close. Once we had announced and we had met with Tim, they liked our model. They thought it had a lot of potential. So when they went to TIFF that year, we told them, hey, think of us as like the kid in your shopping cart. Because they said, we're going to TIFF, we're going to find a movie and we're going to do a release. And so they came back with Colossal and said, we have a movie that we think is perfect for you.
How big was their acquisition of it?
I don't remember offhand their acquisition. It was a few million, I think, but they were going to put it into theaters. And, you know, they'd spent almost $15 million on the movie.
So how much were they looking for? Like $5 million? $10 million?
It was probably about $5 million, I think.
Right.
I don't remember offhand. I think the money that we were putting in wasn't really that important to Neon. It was more the fact that we were going to wrap our arms around the film and help them release it. And we did. We had screenings. We did meetups.
You mean with your 3,400 people?
Yeah. And it was amazing, actually, you know.
What was amazing about it? What did you do?
It was amazing to see how the community came together and how they would organize screenings and invite their friends. And it was a small release. It wasn't like
it was grassroots marketing.
Yeah, it was grassroots marketing, and it really made a difference.
People that were part of that influencer group, you provided like collateral material or something?
Again, this was very early days for us. It was the first time that we'd been involved with the release. But we coordinated some meetups. We made costumes, kaiju heads that you could wear. We made 2 of them with a special effects house, Fawn Davis, so that we could just go and have fun with it.
We had a guy on our team who was 6'8", so we'd send him to the screening.
But why would one of the 3,400 investors care about Colossal? And what would they get out of it?
Here's the thing that Colossal was so important to us, is that it was described by critics as wildly original. And it is. It's actually, I mean, we're really proud of that movie because in a lot of ways, it was the perfect movie for Legion M to come out with because our community, we're uniting this vibrant and engaged community of entertainment fans, not just so we can make money, but we're uniting with a purpose. And our purpose is to bring wildly original, creative ideas to the marketplace. And instead of going out and finding an audience, starting with the start of an audience and having that audience, because if you look at the industry as a whole, we do a lot of reboots and sequels and retreading of existing franchises because that's what makes sense. You're starting with the built-in audience. And we wanted to prove that if you start with the built-in audience, you can take more chances and we can bring things to the market that maybe otherwise might be challenging to bring to the market.
That makes sense. But I want to go back to this question. I'm an investor. And you say to me, guess what? We are a minority or investor in the P&A fund of Colossal.
Yep.
What do I get out of that as a person who's an investor?
So when you invest in Legion M, you own stock in the company.
Correct.
So we tell people it's like if you were one of the early investors in Disney, your stock would be worth a mint. Like, it's not necessarily the fact that you're going to get dividends. You don't get royalties from the movie. But our goal as a company is to IPO and to make your shares liquid. And so if you could imagine, if you were an early investor in Netflix, an early investor in Disney, it's like you're investing effectively like a venture capitalist.
Right. So you don't get to take the money out.
Correct.
You got to wait until there's a capital event.
Yes, that's true. As we'll talk about later, we do have some other ways to invest in Legion M that do return capital.
I forgot how you guys set that up, but that makes sense. So now you've got people saying, oh, we're invested in this company's success, not in an individual movie. That's the answer to my question, really.
Right, yes.
But rather, we want Legion M to be successful.
There are community, there are secret sauce, if you will. There are built-in audience for everything we do. And as you know, we genuinely listen to them. Like, this is something that we think is really important, is that we're not out there finding movies and saying, hey, you got to like this now. We're actually trying to flip the script in a way. Instead of going out and finding movies that we think our community will like, is talking to our community about what they want and understanding.
Well, let's talk about that. Before I do, was Colossal successful?
Well, for us, yes.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So, but not because of the fact that we got a good ROI on the investment. The amount of money that we invested was very small. We didn't make money on that investment, but what we got out of it was far more important. Because flashback to your earlier question, we had raised $1 million. We had 3,500 people. Everybody was like, what are you going to do with $1 million? You're going to make fan films. You're going to make small micro budget movies. And we said, no, we're going to work on movies like Colossal. And we're going to own a little tiny piece of an Anne Hathaway, Jason Sudeikis movie that's in theaters and is wildly original. That's what Legion M is about. And so for us, when we signed the deal, we had no idea if we were going to get any money. We were so green in the industry, frankly, that we had no basis for being able to say there's a good ROI, but we knew we'd already won, because even if we didn't get a penny back, the signal that it sent and the way that it then allowed us to grow from 3,500 to now over 60,000 today.
But when did you grow into 60,000? If you come back and say to people, well, we didn't really make money on Colossal, how did you keep that marketing positive momentum going?
Well, I think it's a big part of when you're starting something, Rome isn't built overnight. And we wanted people to understand that, look, we had something that we had outlined to our community. As you've seen, we're very transparent and upfront with them, that we called the method to the madness. And we shared with them a phased approach into how we were going to not only enter the market, because we had experience in the entertainment space with MobiTV, but we weren't necessarily like existing insiders. So we were insiders with an outsider's perspective. And that's really important. We want to kind of maintain that outsider's perspective, because we like trying different things and to challenge the norms and the traditions that the industry seems to be.
Is this a viable business?
Yes, 100%. So when we outlined that plan, that was a phased approach of us making small minority investments. It mattered to us whether we made money, but it was immaterial, because these were a means to an end. This was our ability to build up our reputation and our credibility to get in, so that we could ultimately be developing, financing, producing, and distributing films. And that's what we're doing today.
So not your credibility in making money, but your credibility in getting involved in projects.
Yeah.
Just to be fully transparent, right?
Well, I think now we're doing both. And so this was 2018. We had a Nick Cage movie, Mandy, that performed really well for us. Yeah, it did really well. Like, we still are getting checks from Mandy. We also had the merch rights for that film. That was part of what we got.
I want to be really clear. This is very interesting. People are investing in Legion M. They're not investing in a project, unlike Angel Studios.
Well,
correct?
Angel has the opportunity to invest in Angel as well, right?
Well, but by and large, people are investing in a philosophy, first off.
Yeah.
Like you guys, I suppose.
Yeah.
But theirs is more faith-friendly in nature. They followed you, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
They came out after.
And it's worth noting, like Angel Studios is obviously such an amazing example of the power of fans and of the power of the audience.
100%. How do you feel about them, by the way, before we go on?
We share a lot of DNA with them. When I see half the stuff they've done, I'm like, oh my God, they stole our idea. And then I see another one, I'm like, oh my God, I'm totally going to steal that idea. Right? Like we share a lot of DNA, but because our content is so divergent, like we don't feel like they're a competitor.
There's room for both of you.
Yeah, it's almost like a sister company.
But are you the same model, essentially?
No.
I would say we share a lot of DNA, but we're a very different approach. Not just in the content, like the theme of the content.
I would say this, right? Angel Studios has done some crowdfunding. Legion M has been entirely crowdfunded from the ground up.
Talking about the company itself.
Yeah. So Angel Studios raised, I think it was $45 million in venture capital, and they allowed people to invest in some of their movies. I don't think they even do that anymore. What they've transitioned to is a subscription model. Last number I heard was over 1 million guild members, but these are people that are paying, it's basically like Netflix, where they're paying $13 a month or $15 a month.
To get the kind of content that they would like to see.
That they want. And where I think
But they do vote on it, right?
They do. And that's where we share a lot of DNA, is at the end of the day, we are driven, we are owned by our investors.
So Colossal was brought to your whole network at that point and to make decision or not?
Most everything that we do, we put in front of them in some way. And it's not necessarily an up or down vote on like, are we going to do this or not?
Can you unpack that? That's where I was saying.
Yeah, we have a couple of examples. So there are things like we have a new movie that we're announcing that our community knows about it, but we didn't ask them about it before we got involved because we knew they would want to be involved. In fact, before we got involved, we had people in our community saying, hey, is this something we could get involved in? This is the Coyote versus Acme project, which is just a no-brainer for us.
I think it's a no-brainer too. What happened to that?
It's so surprising to us. And in a lot of ways, it's very meta because it represents exactly what Legion M was created to do. This was something where a major studio was willing to take the right down.
It was Warner's.
Yeah, it was Warner Brothers.
It was David Zaslav.
It comes full circle. But Catchup Entertainment, who we're friendly with, ended up buying the rights and getting the rights. And now we will hopefully have announced
so you're working with the guy from Catchup?
Yeah, Gareth West is a good friend. And so we've been in touch with them. And so he wants us involved because this is a perfect project to get the Legion wrapping its arms around. And we want to get involved because it's the perfect project that our community wants to do. We want to be...
So you picked it up for a couple $1 million.
Well, he picked it up. Gareth did. We're participating.
Reportedly for $50 million.
They were going to write it off for $30 million. Now they've got $50 million. So Warner Brothers is happy. Everyone involved in the film, including the talent, Will Forte and John Cena, is happy because the movie's going to get a high quality release. We're coming in with the distribution with the P&A Plus investment.
Who's distributing it for you?
Catchup Entertainment.
They have their own...
They're a distributor.
They have actual infrastructure on the ground?
Yeah. One of the films that they did last year was another Looney Tunes movie. I think that's actually how they convinced Warner Brothers to give them the rights, was seeing how well they performed on The Day the Earth Blew Up, which was a much smaller, much different movie.
Have you seen the trailer for Coyote versus?
Is it great?
First of all, they put it out. It's breaking records for a film like this. Yeah,
guys.
It's over 50 million views already. The fans want this movie.
Tell me how you know that, because you do know it. So how do you tell me what you did to get that information?
It's honestly just completely organic.
Just listening to
it's social media groups, right? People posting in the Legion M members
ask
only.
Them questions and do polling?
No, we do.
With
we do very much.
Extensively.
Yeah.
We've never polled them on this particular idea, but we've had enough people reach out to us. Every time we send an email, anytime if you want to reach us, literally just reply to that email. They all come back. We read all the stuff. And I mean, the amount of buzz that we're able to pick up, just pure organic, gave us the confidence to sign that deal and know that our community would like it.
Why don't you, I'm just asking the question, why don't you poll like Angel does?
We do. That's what I was going to say. So in this case, we did a soft poll, actually. We had done a poll to like a subset of our community based on all the organic stuff. But at that point, we knew this was a no-brainer. Time was tight. Let's go do it. We sent one email to our community saying, hey, we've got an allocation. We're going to put money into this project. If you want to participate in this. So this is where things change a little bit. So this is only going to people that are Legion M investors. They own the company. And we're saying there's a new opportunity. It's going to be part of the film fund. It'll be our third project in the film fund. We'll talk about the other two in a minute. But we've made a commitment. If you want to participate, you can. And with one email, we completely sold out the allocation in 2 days. We announced something we call the Film Fund, which is now our P&A fund, which is a companion thing because Legion M is now in the distribution game. Our first project that we co-distributed with Bleecker Street is a film called Fackham Hall. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's an absolutely insane, fun,
it's
hilarious.
A parody of Downton Abbey. It's Downton Abbey meets Airplane. Damian Lewis is the lead, Tom Felton, and
how funny is that?
Really, it's really
good.
Worth it. Yeah,
it's on
if you
HBO
haven't seen
now.
it, you should watch it.
It is on HBO.
Super well for us. So as a first film in our film fund, we're already telling our community, okay, that really worked. Thank you. Our community helped make it work. And now we've got funds coming back that'll go into the second project, which is another project.
How many? You have about 60,000 people in your network right now? What do you know about your 60,000? Enough?
We know a lot, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, these are 60,000 people that, I mean, you have to give your social security number to invest. It's a high bar, first of all, which I think is really challenging for us, right? Yeah. And if you want to invest in Legion M, generally you got to go to the site, you've got to make an investment, turn over all this
information.
Even
in the film fund?
Mm-hmm. Even in the film fund,
you still have to do
because it's all regulated by the SEC. So it's kind of like setting up a brokerage account someplace.
It'd be easier to donate to the company than it is because it's shares and it's legit. Like these people are going in our cap table and we're SEC.
I mean, we need your social security number so that we could pay you if we ever IPO.
On these one-offs, though, that's outside of the IPO offering.
Yes.
On the one-offs, that's like for that particular movie, you're going to get a check.
It's a little bit more than that.
True?
No, it's
well, yes, it can be.
So the way that it works is you're putting your money into the film fund. The returns, when they come back in, automatically roll over to the next project. So if you do nothing, they'll just roll over from movie to movie to movie. And in all of these, they're all P&A or distribution. It's last money in, first money out, conservative. But it is also liquid. So at any point,
I was just going to say, so why would I want to keep my money in there? Because it's also liquid.
It's also liquid. So you can elect to cash out. And at that point, we'll send you the money that we've got. And if there's money still at work on a movie, as that comes in, we'll send it to you.
But the whole idea is to have compounding. So like, the first project, we're going to have about half of the money back from the first project in time to go in the second project within 12 months. And so, ultimately we'll have, build this film fund up to be a kind of...
See, we need that. And here's what I want to, I sort of, for the third act of this podcast, I want to kind of get into, which is the business has shifted so much from this small number of studios calling the shots, very few decision makers in our business.
Yeah.
And then there's you guys who are the future, which is the creator economy, which is people, the democratization of movies, of television, of entertainment in general, of gamification, all of it, YouTube channels, etc., need a platform or help to know what to do once they've made something, because they're not getting it from those few people anymore. That's where people get nervous, going back to the fear and the cynicism and the skepticism. People are nervous as, what am I going to do with my project? How am I going to get it seen? How am I going to get it shown? How am I going to get money to finish it? How am I going to get initial money? So before we go on, in this creator economy, what do we tell the young filmmaker right now that is wanting to get into our business, wanting to market their movie that they've already made, that they don't already know?
You've got to start with the end in mind. I'm always shocked at how many times people come in with something where they're viewing the industry strictly as art. And I totally respect that. It is art, and that's wonderful. And
but
people have these amazing
the
stories, but you can't expect that the commercial part of the business is going to care about the artistic part. And so I think really it's understanding. When I read scripts, it used to be that I would imagine like the key scene or something like that. Or now I think of the trailer, because as someone that has experienced just how hard it is to get somebody's attention or get them to care at all about your story, being able to communicate that story in a brief period is, I think, one of the differences between success and failure when it comes to the commercial part of it.
Excellent advice. Paul, for you?
I would be transparent with them and honest in saying that the industry is a lot more entrepreneurial than you think it is. And that if your goal is to sell something to a major studio, be prepared to be let down. But if your goal and you have the wherewithal to, in a very entrepreneurial way, make shit happen. We met with Guillermo del Toro when we started this company. And I'll never forget, he left us with some parting wisdom when we were leaving. We were at his
what did dear
bleak
Guillermo
house.
Say?
He's amazing.
You were at his what house?
His bleak house, where he writes and he's got all of his movie paraphernalia and props and everything.
His separate house from where he lives, where he keeps his collection.
We spent a few hours with him on a Sunday afternoon. Before we were leaving, he said, "Guys, can I just give you one piece of advice, just one thing to know about this industry? I love what you're doing. I think this is really positive and something that the industry needs." He said, "Just remember one thing," and then paused for like dramatic effect. And he said, "Nothing happens." And we were like, "What? What do you mean?" He said, "Nothing happens. Just know that in this industry, the tendency is nothing will happen." This was before Shape of Water, but he was still a very accomplished director. And he said, "You probably think it's easy for me to get movies made. Nope. It's a sheer act of will every time. I have to make it happen. Nothing happens in this industry without people making it happen." And I think that's true. You need to have perseverance. You need to be...
Laurence Olivier said to actors, it's not enough to have talent. Yeah. You must have a talent for talent. That is where I'm going to ask you to both just sort of comment as to the future of why Legion M is so important in this evolving world.
So I did a TEDx talk on this. And when we started Legion M, as I mentioned, we had a purpose. And our purpose is to democratize entertainment. And I think as a society, a lot of us kind of underestimate the impact that having so much of our entertainment content. We all think of, we have so much variety to choose from. But what we don't recognize is how narrow that band of decision makers is that are choosing what content gets made. And we believe that a community is something that is really, really valuable, not just in kind of democratizing entertainment, but making sure that entertainment is a reflection of society and not a molder of society.
You're so wise to say the word community. You need to engage people at the earliest stages. They need to feel ownership in something. Rick Roman Waugh was a guest of mine here, and he's been such a maverick in doing his own stuff. And we talked about this idea of before you shoot a frame of film, getting community involved in your casting decisions, in the look and style, so that they become passionate advocates or evangelists early on. I always like to say, you can buy awareness.
Yeah.
You can't buy interest.
Exactly.
Interest
That's
is
100% right.
Organic and earned and
if you're authentically listening to the community, this is one of the things that I think, Jeff and I are a little bit surprised at the distance that the decision makers in Hollywood keep from the fans, and everyone says they want to understand the community and they want to know where the fans are going. But very few companies genuinely engage those fans and try to learn.
How do you mostly engage them? Jeff, how do you mostly engage your community?
It starts with being transparent with them. It starts with treating them as partners as opposed to consumers. It involves giving them a seat at the table.
What does that actually mean?
So we have countless tools that we've used over the years to try and gauge sentiment and to choose our projects. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to, we talked about Coyote, and that was an outlier because it's one of the very few projects that we didn't run an impulse survey for. But we're constantly surveying people. Here are 20 log lines, and tell us what you think. Rate them from 1 to 5, and tell us, dig deeper on this. And it's within those 20 log lines, there's probably 3 or 4 of them are actual projects that we're considering, and the rest of them are just control group. Mm. We're doing the same thing with directors and with talent. And we have an app called Film Scout that we use to help us navigate films at a film festival.
I have a product just, called Fest Eval, like festival,
oh,
Fest Eval. And it, in advance, polls 1,000, 2,000 people about the concepts of these movies that will be on the schedule at Sundance, South by Southwest. I'll sell it to an executive going to a festival when they can only see 8 or 9 films.
Right. They can't
That's a fundamental challenge.
And we could say these are the ones that have the most, what we call capability, the ones that will resonate most with an audience.
Yeah.
Yep.
Therefore, put your energy
Genius. You are a genius.
It is genius.
Yeah.
Well,
No, true.
What we did with ours is we've gamified it because we asked people 2 questions. The first one is we ask you, what do you think of these movies? Then we ask you, what do you think everybody else is going to think of these movies? And so it's interesting because the first question, your opinion is just as valid as my opinion, and that's data. But asking you to predict, what do you think everybody else, is interesting because we all think that we have our opinions, but it stands to reason that some people have their finger on the pulse. And so we have, at the end of the festival, we release a leaderboard that tells you how good you were at predicting.
One of the entertainment trades does a poll of, what do you think this movie's going to open?
It's Sean McNulty.
It's Sean McNulty. He's very smart to do that. What have you learned about grassroots marketing that traditional studios may have overlooked or are overlooking?
It's a great question. After reading your books, I feel a little unqualified to answer that because I've never worked in a major studio and I don't want to assume what they're doing. But I think to me, one of the biggest reasons why people go see a movie, like you think of like, oh my gosh, it's the Odyssey. I've got to see that on the biggest screen available and with the sound, and everybody gets that. But I think one of the biggest things is you go see it because that's what your friends are going to see. I grew up in an era where we went to the movies every Friday night, and it wasn't because of the fact that we needed to see this movie on the big screen. That's what we did on a Friday night.
Part of your behavior.
And I think there's so much opportunity to build theatrical events around community where people are showing up at a certain night or whatever to go see a movie, not because they need to see the movie. We're all surrounded by content. We can see the content whenever we want, but because that's where our friends are and that's where the games are and that's where I'm just going to have a good night out with people.
Do you think the studio model is going to continue the way it is?
I think it's going to evolve. And one of the areas that I think there's a kind of aggressive need to evolve is, and I think Kevin Smith was famously quoted as saying, the most expensive part of releasing a movie is not producing the movie, it's marketing the movie. And I feel like there's a lot of waste in marketing today, and most of these films do the best job that they can in marketing and finding people and building that awareness. But a lot of that money is wasted.
Can this model scale up to a studio?
I think it can, yeah. So our goal, it's built into our logo, which is M with the bar over it. That's the Roman numeral for 1 million. Our goal is to unite 1 million entertainment fans to co-own the company. And even at 100,000 or 300,000, you see what Angel Studios is able to do. We have a pretty good idea of what our impact is on a project. And it's really valuable today. It's the reason why Coyote wants us involved in their project. It's the reason why Bleecker Street wants us in on Fackham Hall. If we can multiply that, and we know it does grow with scale as we continue to grow, and at some point we're going to take the company public and our shareholder base is going to grow exponentially. That impact is so essential because if you get to a point where you can drive millions of dollars in box office without spending a dime on marketing, right? For us to communicate to our community doesn't cost us a thing. We send them emails, we post on our social media, we interact with them.
They're essentially doing the work for you.
Well, but they want to know what's coming up. Right. What can I go see?
Yes.
They're going to go see. They're going to gather their friends. They're going to go, see the movie. And if that's $5 million or $10 million, you've done two things. Number one, you've absolutely fundamentally changed the downside risk. And this is one of the things in Hollywood, right? You've increased the upside scenario for sure. But most people, like when a film hits, if you could get an extra $5 or $10 million, that's really important. But when a film doesn't hit, that's when it's really important to like have that downside scenario. And I think, we're more excited.
I call it
than ever.
differently risk mitigation.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah,
it's risk mitigation and understanding your audience at the before you go get involved in anything.
Yeah.
And that's where we really share DNA. I think that's the reason. I know it's the reason why I invited you onto the podcast is because we do share that. We share respect for the audience and knowing that if you can identify the size of the audience and the intensity of interest in something, you can comp better. You can make better business decisions. Last couple of questions. Jeff, what keeps you up at night?
The fact that we're a small startup company that didn't raise $50 million in venture capital. I mean, I think you mentioned earlier how much anxiety there is today about the future of the industry. And that's everybody feels that. And it's not just this industry, it's everything. With AI, nobody knows where we're going to be 3 or 5 years from now. But I think aside from that, the thing that gives me comfort in the middle of the night is this belief in the power of the audience. Because at the end of the day, we work in this crazy, messed up industry, but it is entirely powered by you and me and the people that buy the tickets and decide what to watch. Full stop. And so we believe that someday AI is going to maybe write all the content and it's going to be piped directly into our brains. But even if that happens, and even if robots someday make all the movies, only human beings pay to watch movies. And we think that if you can build a company, if you can be on the side of that audience, it's the most defensible place that you could ever be.
That's a genius crystallization, I think, which is at the end of the day, and people smell authenticity, they smell humanity, they smell the reality of it. You can't manufacture that, right? That's really smart. Paul, last question for you is, if this works the way you envision it, what does Hollywood look like 10 years from now?
First of all, we're very confident we're going to make Legion M work. We're entrepreneurs, so we're always optimistic. How many years has it been now? It's been 10 years. You
get over your first year, then the first 3 years, then the 5. After that, you're pretty much made it work. And so it's like, how do I evolve it, right?
Now it's how do we kind of confirm that it works? We started it as an experiment and then confirmed that it can work. And now we're consistently proving over and over that it continues to work and we want to scale it. I think how Hollywood looks, I think it's impossible to tell what AI's impact is going to be on the industry. But like Jeff said, we don't chase trends. We try to be ahead of the curve and kind of thinking through the next evolution. And I believe that we're not the only company that's going to do this. I think Legion M is going to be one of the leaders, but I think 10 years from now, there'll be many companies doing what we're doing. It's kind of like when we first introduced MobiTV and people were like, oh yeah, this is a cute little part of the industry. And now it's everywhere. And I think it's going to be the same way. I think even the major studios will probably wake up to this and start realizing that oh, wow, you know what? We should be more fully engaged in understanding what the community wants and maybe even giving them an opportunity to invest.
In my book, How to Score in Hollywood, I do have a theory, of course, and I just want to get your final opinion on it, which is every movie, if made and marketed
should make
for
money.
The right price, should make money. You believe that?
In theory, I do. Yeah. And I love that model. This is one of the things that Jeff and I, kind of what I was describing earlier, which is, of course we believe in the upside and we want to have as many hits as possible, but we also don't believe that we need to factor in many flops and a few winners. That we believe with the community that we have, that everything can work. And then some things will really work.
That's how I feel, especially with what you have. Yeah. I think that my theory works particularly well with your business because there should be no reason why you lose anything if you're listening to your audience.
Yeah.
Jeff, Paul, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a really enlightening discussion and a very much in the weeds conversation. Mm-hmm. And I've gone pretty long here today because it's not a superficial sort of thing to unpack. Mm-hmm. And I want people to really get a sense of just how important what you're doing is and what visionaries you are. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having us. We feel the same way about you, Kevin. We're really big fans, and your books and your podcast are an inspiration to us. And
my only criticism of your book is that you didn't write it 10 years ago. So we could have read it when we stared the company.
Yeah, exactly.
We would have saved a lot of painful lessons.
I'll one up you on that. I wish I wrote it 20 years ago when I was coming up in my business.
Yeah.
And I tell people that, even if you're not in the movie business, it just makes intuitive sense. It's like, snap out of it from Moonstruck.
Right.
Yeah. Right? Listen to your audience.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
To our listeners, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. For more insights into filmmaking, audience testing, and the business of Hollywood, I invite you to check out my books, Audience.Ology and How to Score in Hollywood, at Amazon, or through my website at kevingetz360.com. You can also follow me on my social media. Next time on Don't Kill the Messenger, I'll be joined by veteran studio executive and producer, and a truly important figure in our industry, Sid Ganis. Until then, I'm Kevin Goetz, and to you, our listeners, I appreciate you being part of the movie-making process. Your opinions matter.